let's start the story right now. Oh, because the worst part you just got to. That's the part I really need to go over with you in detail. Okay. So let me just explain what you've told me so far, and then I want you to pick it up from there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So you called the police because your son made some offensive remarks to your daughter. You were outraged because. Well, hold on. Just don't. Wait. Hold on. What I want you to do is just let me finish telling it, and then you say yes, and then I'm going to say some more, and then let me know if I'm on the right track. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So your son was making comments. He had a little fight with your daughter. You were offended because you don't raise them like that. You're a very strict parent, and when he made the remarks, you thought the police could come to perhaps calm the situation down. Correct?
Right. That's it.
Okay. The police showed up, and instead of helping you as you had intended, because you're the one that called the police, they started making insulting remarks to your son, and then tried to arrest him. Is that right?
Well, they started making the insulting remarks to my husband.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. They made. Hold on. Let me finish. They made some offensive remarks to your husband first, implying that he wasn't managing his own household. And then they made remarks to your son, calling him boy, which was out of his name, and you felt had racial overtones.
Exactly.
Okay, so now suddenly you guys are all outside, and suddenly the police tell your son, get in the car, boy, and your son didn't know why, and you didn't know why. Did you ever get an explanation of why they were going to arrest him at that point?
Well, right after this whole thing was over and they had tasered my son and handcuffed, what happened is the same officer that tasered my son came back around to the house, and I wasn't paying any attention. Because I didn't know where my son was. The first thing I was saying, well, where's my son? And the police came to assist him. Another cop, which was a pretty nice cop, he came and he had my son in the back of his car. He came at the end of the scene. So when I went to the car and I seen my son, he didn't even know anything. He was totally out of it. Like, I thought my son was...
Hold on. You were going to tell me why they arrested him. What did they charge him with?
He told the officer, when we asked him what did he charge my son with, he said, well, we charged him with domestic violence. And we were like, on who?
Whoa. Wait a minute. Wait, let me stop you there, because I want to make sure I have the facts right. You're telling me that your son never laid a hand on his sister.
Oh, no, he never did.
And wait a minute. And you guys told the police that, correct?
Yes, sir. We told him exactly why. I mean, it's on 911 tape. We told him why. I told him why I called the police.
So there was never any violence for them to do anything with. Is that right?
No, sir. Not any at all.
Okay.
No kicking, not even. He wasn't even in the same room with her. He just yelled, he called her a beast.
Okay, and that's so wait, let me ask you. Slow down. So the point here, what I want to make sure is, I'm a retired detective, and I have to do things the way the police do them, and so I'm trying to get certain facts from you, and I want to make sure I understand the story, because if we're going to help you or defend you, I need to know all the details, and you've given me a lot of information, but I need to narrow it down now. Okay?
Okay.
So the officers had no other crime other than what you reported to them, which is that your son called your daughter a bad name.
Exactly.
That was the only crime. That was the only crime involved.
That's what they told us. And then the officer said they're charging him with assault. We said, on who?
On the police.
On me. And we said, for what did he do?
Okay. I'll get to that in a minute.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I have a good idea what happened, but I want to follow it through a few points. So now let's go back to before you knew what he was charged with. Now that I know, I have a better idea what happened. So at the point that your son was at the car and they told him to get in the car, the only crime that had happened up to that point, so far as you know, is that your son had called your daughter a bitch.
Oh, yes, sir. That's it. That's all. That's
Okay.
all that happened.
So now the police officer tells your son, get in the car, and he says, what for?
Exactly.
Okay. And
no, he said, what am I being charged? He said, what am I going to jail for?
And what did the officer say? Did he say anything?
He told him, he said, boy, don't be asking me any questions. No, he didn't. No, I'm sorry. He said, what'd you say, boy? That's what he said. He said, what'd you say, boy? And then he proceeded to tell him, just do what he said.
Just do what I said. And hold on. Which officer was the one that was telling him that?
It was a young officer. He was like 2021.
Okay, all right.
And I
So
got
now
the
you're
name.
okay. Hold on. So now your son at that point takes off running. Is that right?
He took off running after they started reaching for the handcuffs.
Okay, so they start reaching for handcuffs. He takes off running. All right. And as
Took
far
off
as he
running.
knew, hold on. As far as he knew, they had no reason to arrest him. Is that right?
Exactly, because they never answered him. He never
Okay.
answered him.
All right. Now he takes off running. I want you to go over slowly over what they did to him. Now listen, let me just tell you one thing because I only have so much time. I don't want you to get into all the details. I just want you to give me the major pieces. When your son took off running, when did they first get physical with him as far as you could tell?
Well, when he first took off running, when he ran towards the family, my son, the older officer was behind. He didn't really take off running, and the young officer started running behind my son, trying to, catch him.
Mm-hmm.
He pulled something out his holster because I was watching the officer and my son. I was watching both of them. And he took something out his holster because I didn't know what it was. It was at night, and I just heard something pop.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all thought it was a gun, and I said, "Oh my God, they're shooting him! They're shooting at him!"
Mm-hmm.
And then I did see too, I saw some white, the white lines.
Okay, so that was the taser that they were firing.
Right, and I figured that's what it was after. I did see the two white lines.
Okay,
Thought, oh
so
my God,
they shot him with the taser. He goes down.
No, they didn't shoot him with it. The man just popped it. The officer, because my son was ahead of him running around the carport. The other officer took that out of his holster, what have you. He popped it, and I just saw the laser, And then my son took off running around the main street,
Mm-hmm.
University Boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
Then the officer came around the same direction my son, around my carport, around the car in the Jeep, and my son's sister, the one he cursed out, jumped in front of the officer and said, what are you taking my brother to jail for? And the officer said, because he hit me. We were like, and then we were...
Okay, but hold on, ma'am. Whoa. You told the story. Wait a minute. Let's go back over. I want to go over what they did to him. There's a lot of stuff you left out this time that we went over the last time that I want to get to. You said when they shot him with the taser that someone put their knee in his back or that they were kicking him or they did some other things.
That was right. That was after after he got to my son.
Okay.
He got to my son, he was already on the ground.
Okay. So your son was on the ground. Well, your son was on the ground. And did you see an officer strike or hit your son while he was down?
No, I didn't see him hit him with a fist or anything. He didn't strike him with any kind of fist. He just started using that taser.
Okay, so your son was already on the ground and he tasered him.
Yes, sir.
And did your son tell him that he was submitting, that he was not trying to flee, and that he was giving up?
Well, he was on the ground. My son was saying, the officer was yelling out. When he first approached my son, he started yelling, "Get on the ground, get on the ground." And I'm looking at this, and my 18-year-old son is looking, and he's saying, "I'm already on the ground."
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking to myself, why is he saying get on the ground and the boy's on the ground? My son's on the ground. And he said, and then so he tasered my son.
Okay.
Well, put your hands behind your back.
Was your son on the ground when he tasered him?
Yes, sir. It's all on his back.
Okay, so they actually
Taser marks are all in a...
so the taser marks are actually in his back because he was laying on his stomach.
Exactly.
Okay.
He had about 15 taser marks on burns on his back.
So they shot him with the taser unnecessarily.
Yes, sir. I'm looking at this the whole time.
So you saw your son.
They're yelling.
Hold on. You saw your son on the ground as they instructed him to do, and they tasered him anyway after he was on the ground?
Yes, sir. They tased him over and over and over until the boy couldn't even do anything. It was like he was a corpse. I mean, it took 3 officers to actually lift this child up off the ground and help him to get into a police car. He was like a noodle. When I approached my son, he didn't even hear. I said, "Is he dead?" He was like drenching with sweat. He was just like, in the back of the car seat, the police car. He was just like, just like he wasn't even living.
What? Hold on. Was this the Mobile, Alabama Police Department?
Yes, sir. It's Mobile, Alabama.
Okay. All right. Okay. I